this episode of International Dyno Authority, we are filming and showing you a complete carburetor tune on a 1969 Camaro from start to finish, owned and operated by Attila Carosi and tuned right here at International Dyno Authority. Stay tuned and watch. We're jumping straight out of fuel injection and carburation and tuning based on air-fuel ratio that we can adjust inside of a computer, and we're going to go a little bit old school today. Our customer today is Attila Carosi. He has a 1970 Camaro. Tell me a little bit about the motor.
It's a 69 Camaro, 434 small block with AFR heads and a hydraulic roller cam. It's actually a street combination. It's a little bit high on the compression side, 10.8 to 1, but it will run on premium fuel. And it's naturally aspirated, and I foot brake the car.
Excellent. So you do some drag racing with this car. Primarily that's its use.
It's a street strip car, yes.
Yeah. So you have a small challenge for us today.
If you could find some horsepower, I'll advertise for you. You can put your advertisement on my back window.
And we're going to see where it's running, how it's running. First thing we'll do is a baseline, and let's kick that off and get it going. In this case, we're running a baseline with the intentions to tune. When we're intending to tune, we need to know what the air fuel is. We need to know where we started. So on the screen, we'll have two lines. We'll have a green line that shows us torque, which is the only thing you can measure, and we'll have a red line that shows us horsepower. We're also going to pick up the air-fuel ratio. In this case, we are really blessed because the customer, Attila, has put in a bung in the exhaust that we can actually put the air-fuel ratio sensor directly into. So we were able to pick up air fuel on the baseline absolutely perfectly. We can see where we need to make changes. We can see what would be optimal, and we can make those changes now over time and then compare them back to where we are on our baseline as we go through step by step by step, making this a little bit better than it was before and trying to live up to Attila's challenge, which is if we make more power, we get to put a sticker on his car. It's the only sticker on his car when he leaves here. Okay, we've run the baseline, but it doesn't do any good unless we take an analysis of where we are and where we're going, and do we think we can do better? We definitely think we can do better because we've read the air-fuel ratio. Let's start it with where we are. 755 foot-pounds of torque. For those of you who are going to read the statistics and say, well, that's impossible, you can't make that. The reality is when you take a torque converter, that's its job. Its job is to take whatever power you have there and multiply it. It's a torque multiplier and put it to the ground. You can't move a vehicle that weighs this much down the track that quickly without making a lot of power off the bottom. The engine, if it lugs off the bottom, is not going to work. So the torque converter simply revs that up and gives you a little bit of artificial power off the bottom, which is great. We're at 755 torque immediately off the bottom. We kind of balance off and we come into the 600 and 500 area, but the horsepower is where we can measure on top. 510 horsepower at 5,900 RPM. This engine loves to rev. Let's see if we can't pull the jetting in a little bit closer. Right now we're around 11.6 on the air fuel. We'd like to be closer to 12.5, 12.8. We are going to, and this is our plan, take a little bit of fuel out of the top end to start with and make another baseline, and then we'll work our way down. Okay, so what we've just finished is a small adjustment to the carburetor. Now that we've seen the improvements with that small adjustment, what we're going to do is make quite a few other small adjustments to the carburetor. When you see a rich situation, what you need to do is take a little bit of fuel out. We found that the air fuel on this, being at 11.6, 11.4, is way beyond too much fuel. So we started with a very small adjustment. We went from an 84 jet, which is just the size of a hole, down to a slightly smaller hole in the carburetor to an 82. The improvement all the way through the range, when we look at the numbers, it's not just a little bit of improvement. We're talking about 30, 40, 50 average horsepower from 2,000 to 6,000. So we're going to make some more changes now. We're going to go into the low-speed air screws. We're going to go into the accelerator pumps. We're going to make just a little bit of a change on that. And we're going to try a smaller power valve before we go to smaller mains, smaller jets on the bottom end. We're going to continue on the path we're in, fixing the fuel curve, working with the fuel curve, working with the air-fuel ratio, and then we'll work on ignition timing just to see if it needs a little bit or not. Okay, the bulk of our work revolves around air-fuel ratio. We were challenged today to take that same scientific approach where we read the outgoing air-fuel ratio in the exhaust system, but instead of using a computer to vary the amount of fuel going through a fuel injection system through a very high-tech computer, we did it with a 1969 Camaro. We tuned the carburetor from start to finish, from low end to top end. We made a couple of changes just to see what the changes would affect, and then we just kept working and plowing all the way through. We were able to make a pile of improvement, and we're going to go over those numbers right this minute, but just so that we can wrap this up nicely, Attila Carosi is going to come in here, and we're going to do something kind of, well, that represents how good we did, how well we did. You're going to have to put this on your car, buddy.
Deal's the deal. I'm very happy with what we found today, and the proof's going to be in the pudding when we go to Luskville in a week and a half from now. We'll see the difference, and we'll update you on the time slip too.
So he knows what his time slips. He's been running this car for a few years. The numbers are this. We come in showing 775 foot-pounds of torque through the torque converter at a lower RPM, forcing the dyno to spin very quickly and very aggressively. We started out at 510 horsepower. We're now making 824 foot-pounds of torque off the bottom, and we're now making 532 horsepower, and we're carrying it everywhere. From bottom to top, we carry horsepower all the way through. We've done a graph overlay, and we'll include that in the final version of what we're showing here. But very, very happy with the way the car runs, the way it sounds now, the way it comes on, and really looking forward to Attila having a chance to go out and actually try the vehicle at the track and putting the proof in the pudding, like you say. Thanks very much for coming in. We really appreciate it.